Hello, my name is Roger. Thank you for joining us. This is our third video segment, and we're going to try to show you very much in detail this time what we're doing to actually convert this car from a street car to a car that looks like a road-going RSR. Now, during the course of this, a few people have contacted me to ask me exactly what are we doing. Now, let me be clear. We're calling this an RSR because it has the shape of an RSR. But what we're actually doing is employing the parts from a Cup R, which is a variant of the RSR, which is available only in Europe. In this video segment, I'm really going to try to explain in detail some of the subtleties of how we're performing this job. As I mentioned, I'm calling it an RSR because this is the look and shape and feel of an RSR. What we're actually using is many Cup R parts. Now, the wheel directly to my right is off a factory RSR. The wheel just ahead of it, this is the wheel and tire that we're going to be using on our project. Now, both of these wheels are 3-piece BBS racing wheels. The distinction, the main difference being that to get the correct tire height, we had to run to a 19-inch tire for the street version, while this version for the racetrack is 18 inches. Okay, now I'd like to show you, as you see, the wheel we've chosen for our project is installed on the car. Now, this was no easy task, and frankly, it was quite a lot more than I bargained for when we were thinking about this project 2 or 3 months ago. I knew that the parts existed to make this project work, but the combination of parts really couldn't be determined until we had everything right in front of us. Okay, now I'd like to show you what I think is very important. After we chose our wheel and tire, it was critical that the wheel fit into the flare. And at the bottom down here, as we look at the bottom of the wheel and the flare, we can see that we have just the right amount of gap here. Now, this is with the wheel in full droop, meaning the suspension completely extended. Now, when the car goes on the ground, the suspension is going to rise approximately 2 inches. And then we need to make sure that as the wheel travels up maybe another inch or possibly 2 inches, we don't hit anything on the inside of the bodywork or the flare itself. In my hands here is the stock upright. We found that as much as we wanted to use the stock upright, it really wouldn't allow us to have the correct suspension geometry. So what we've done is we've already installed a Cup R upright onto our suspension so we can maintain the correct angularity of the arms. Okay, when we first put this suspension into the car, you can see I'm approximating the angle of the arms when we put the suspension on the ground. And if you notice at our arms here, they're almost at a 45-degree angle to the horizontal plane. Now, for this suspension to work right, the geometry, when it's installed in the car, these arms all need to be basically horizontal to each other. We were very lucky here to have many parts to choose from. Factory R parts, factory RSR parts, GT3R parts, Cup car parts, and I think we looked at about every part I had here to figure out the best solution. And what we're going to actually end up doing is using a combination of parts that were on the car, slightly modifying them, and then using some additional parts that will allow us to achieve the proper suspension for the rear. I'd like you to notice that our top arms are no longer the solid dog bone type, but they're an adjustable arm with a rod end on either side. This allows us to set the caster and also the camber to exactly position where we want them as we set the ride height of the car. In front of me, you're going to look at a factory racing upright and the street car upright, and they are vastly different. The racing car is designed so that the suspension retains the proper geometry, running the car very low. The stock upright is designed so that the suspension geometry is in a proper position at the street ride height. As you notice from looking at the videos beforehand, we've cut almost 3 inches out of the body, and we've dropped the body down quite a lot. As we've done this, we found that it was absolutely necessary to move to some of the racing suspension parts to maintain the correct suspension geometry. Now initially we thought that we would just run the racing car upright, but it's not that easy. The racing car doesn't have a handbrake. We're going to go and keep this car as original as possible, and I feel that this car should have a handbrake, so we're going to make the basic modifications on the racing upright so we can install the parking brake. In addition to that, we're going to have to install all the street car specific pieces into the racing upright, which luckily Porsche has allowed us to do quite easy by maintaining some of the basic dimensions from both the street to the racing upright. Another change we're going to make is we're going to substitute the original shocks and springs for this set of 2A GRZ dampers. We can adjust the shock both in rebound and compression. We can change the spring to any spring rate we'd like. In addition, we can set things like the droop, and we can make the shock run at basically any ride height we want without the fear of the piston internally bottoming out in the shock and damaging it. Okay, what we're finding here is although there's always a degree of difficulty in what we're doing here, by looking at what's available both from the racing department and from the street car department, we've been able to find some very interesting solutions to some of our problems. As mentioned before, we're using the Cup car upright here, but we're able to use the street car hub. So we've married the street car and the race car, 100% Porsche parts, and that's how we're trying to continue every step of the way on this project. Now, in front of me, you see the jig we've made to hold the rear subframe in the mill, because what we're going to end up doing is taking about 10 millimeters off the top of each mounting point, which will allow us to drop the chassis to get the correct look, but also maintain the correct suspension geometry so we have the car driving just as it did when it was original. As we take a closer look at the front bumper, I want everybody to recognize that we were able to use the stock radiator, the stock inlet ducts, the original AC condenser. Everything behind this bumper remains original and intact. Now I think there's a lot of wisdom to that. Now primarily is if we would have went the RSR route completely, we probably would have spent another $50,000 on radiators and carbon fiber inlet ducts. The fact that we're able to use our original pieces, I think really makes a lot of sense. In the event of some type of an accident, we're going to be replacing a front bumper, but everything else behind the car is a street car part and very easily accessible. At this point, I'd like everybody to know we're really enjoying this project. And in addition, I found it a great experience to get the feedback from so many of you out there that have asked me questions or even corrected me. I'm definitely not above a correction. We're learning a lot, and every day that we spend on this project, we're finding problems that we really weren't anticipating. Now luckily, having all the cars around us that we do and having all the different people helping us, we found, I believe, a really nice solution for everything we've been up against. But if you're not quite sure what we're doing, or if you have a specific question, feel free, somehow contact us. I mean, it's pretty easy, orbitracing.com, send in an email, orbitracing.com, there's actually a phone number there. If someone's really got a question, the email would be the easiest for me, and I'll try to answer it, or throw some video up, or give you a detailed explanation.